when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask. I just really hit the field. 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 Boy, I'm about to hit the field.
Welcome back. We are back finally after a bit of a break, but we are going to finish the semester strong with 4 90-minute episodes of the Hitting the Field podcast. Is your host, Jeremy Brener, and kicking off our end of semester run here, we have some NFL talk today with Mr. Jon Whitley, Mr. Fired Up on my far right. John, what's going on, man?
Yeah, man, I think it was the most confusing week of NFL football we've had so far, but I'm fired up to figure it out with you guys.
I feel like we say that every week. This is confusing, that was confusing, all that, and a bag of chips. But Chris Tran is also joining me, the man in the middle over here. Chris, just one word to describe this week in the NFL.
Unpredictable.
Unpredictable. I think we've also said that almost about every single week of the season so far. But I want to kick off our talk today with a little bit of something that didn't necessarily happen over the weekend, but something that happened yesterday. So after 9 seasons, after a Super Bowl appearance, and I want to say 3 playoff appearances, the Panthers decided it was time to part ways with Ron Rivera. And, I mean, in hindsight, the move isn't as surprising, but I think what's more surprising about it, guys, is the timing of this. It's, there's still 4 weeks left in the season. Panthers are 5-7. I mean, playoffs probably not going to happen, but, I mean, this team was, early in the season was seen as one of the teams that could possibly be there in the end. But now they are 5-7 and new head coach. So, Chris, was this the right call at the right time?
Was it the right call? Maybe, but definitely not the right time. You would think after losing your star quarterback for the whole season, your coach would kind of get a pass for the year. It's not like everybody knows Ron Rivera is a good coach. If he wants a job, he's not going to have any trouble finding one. It's all just really up to him. But as far as the timing, it just didn't make sense to me. I just don't see why all of a sudden now in week 14, you're all of a sudden deciding to make a change. Nothing's going to change in these last 3 weeks, and Ron Rivera's done enough for that club to at least deserve to finish out the year.
Yeah, John, was this the right time?
Yeah, I agree. I think the timing was a little strange, but I don't think I could say it's the wrong time. I think Ron Rivera's gotten too many passes. I think he's kind of kept his job suspiciously long and been running off his reputation for a couple of years now. I think what this really points to is the climate for defensive head coaches is just not good right now, but I think he'll land on his feet as a DC somewhere.
Yeah, 76, 63, and 1. So that was my next question is, what is the future for Ron Rivera? John, you think DC, what team do you think could be in the market for a DC, an experienced DC like Rivera? Is there any team that stands out right now, or I mean, honestly, it could be. Really...
I think maybe the LA Rams. I think the defense has played bad for what it looks like on paper, and Wade Phillips is getting up there. So maybe the LA Rams.
The Rams. I think that would be a really good fit. Kind of because I think what Ron Rivera did in Carolina, at least when that defense was at its peak, it was in a way he was able to really change a lot of he was able to extend Thomas Davis's career. He was able to really make Luke Kuechly one of the best middle linebackers in the league. I feel like he had a big part in that. And I don't necessarily agree with the timing of this move just because the Panthers have a lot of pieces that they've worked around for a very long time. Cam's been there for a while. Greg Olson's been there for a while. Luke Kuechly's been there for a while. They've established franchise centerpieces over the years, and they've all worked with Rivera. And in what was it? It was 9 seasons. I guess in 8 full seasons, he made the playoffs 4 times. It's a 50% playoff rate. It's not terrible. It's definitely
for Carolina too.
Look, I think, especially for Carolina, I think if you look at it in hindsight, coaches that make the playoffs 4 out of 8 years. I mean, it's 8 years is a long time to hold an NFL coaching job. Like Rivera definitely beat the average time for a head coach, so I give him props, and he definitely deserved it. I think this year, I think what we saw is, because there was never a time other than his first 2 seasons, and those are his first 2 seasons with Cam, he never missed the playoffs in consecutive seasons, and the Panthers appear to be missing the playoffs for consecutive seasons for the first time since 2011 and 2012. Chris, so Rivera's gone. Where do you think he could fit in next? Is he a head coach? Is he a DC? Where is he going to go?
I think if he wants to be a head coach in the future, he can. Maybe it could be a DC job next, and then just stepping back into a head coaching job. It could be either way. As far as the DC goes, I think teams like the Eagles, they could be moving on from Schwartz after this season. I feel like the Raiders could maybe. If you look at Gruden, the power offensive mind, if you put a power defensive mind there, that could be a good fit. I just feel like you're going to have to wait and see what coaching jobs open up. You look at Atlanta, but they're probably going to look for an offensive guy. Cincinnati, I guess, Zach Taylor's in his first year, but is he really going to get the job back? There could be any number of teams that could be looking for a coach at the end of the year.
To me, there are 3 places that stand out to me already as a head coach, because I actually do believe Ron Rivera will be head coach next year. I believe that Washington is a really interesting spot for him. I think that they had Jay Gruden, offensive guy, switch him with a defensive guy, give a sense of culture. Like, the reason why they brought in Bill Callahan as their interim is they wanted some discipline, and Ron Rivera has been able to do that, and he's someone from experience, and that's what the Redskins need right now. Is they need someone who's an experienced mindset, and also it's not too far of a move for Ron Rivera. It's not as it's easier to move your family from Carolina a little bit up north to the DC area, but it makes sense because that's the only other team that has relieved its coach of its duties during the season, so that also makes sense. But I think Jacksonville might make sense too. Jacksonville might want to move on from Marone after the year. That looks like an intriguing spot there. I think the defense is in need of some rebuilding. Not necessarily rebuilding, but I'd say retooling. Because you lose Jalen Ramsey, the defensive line is not as revered as it once was. So maybe that would be an interesting spot. But also, if I had to put my money on it right now, I would say Ron Rivera is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys next season. I really believe that once the news broke yesterday, Jerry Jones cracked a smile. I really think that in my eyes, once Jerry Jones found out, he cracked a smile and his gears started turning. Could you imagine Ron Rivera as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
I really could. And the talent on that Cowboys roster is way too high to be underperforming like they are this year. I think Jacksonville and Dallas are 2 really good candidates. The only reason I don't think Washington is they have a new quarterback in Dwayne Haskins, and I feel like you want to pair up your new rookie franchise quarterback with an offensive guy to go hand in hand with. But as far as Jacksonville and Dallas specifically, I think Dallas does make a lot of sense. They have Dak, who they don't really have to worry about as much. He's an established quarterback in this league, and there's way too much talent on that roster.
Because, in a way, Carolina and Dallas, there are shades that the 2 offenses share in terms of they want to run the football, they want to, establish the ground game so that they can get the play action and the pass game going. John, Dallas Cowboys, Ron Rivera, is there
Dallas
a
Cowboys? I think I agree. Jerry Jones cracked a smile, but not because he wants Ron Rivera as a head coach. I think he's thinking bigger. I think he wants to bring in Lincoln Riley as a head coach, get the offensive guru, get Ron Rivera to be DC, and now you've got an all-star coaching staff to go with your all-star roster, and you can make that Super Bowl run.
I think, look, if Lincoln Riley and Ron Rivera were teaming up in Dallas next year, I would be very scared. I'd be
terrified as an Eagles fan.
I would be very scared if I were in the NFC East. But let's move on to the NFC East right now, because here's, I wanted to talk Eagles on the show on Monday. Didn't get the time to do that, but Chris, you're here right now. Just you get the floor right now. The next 2 or 3 minutes are yours. And then John and I are going to sit back. We're going to enjoy our invisible cups of coffee, and then we'll comment on what you have to rant about. So the floor is yours.
Oh, man. Well, this whole season has been like a back and forth where the teams either looked horrible or it's looked really good. You look at beating Green Bay on Thursday night, and then you look at games like this weekend when you lost to Miami, losses to Detroit. This whole season has been something that just doesn't make sense. And honestly, this just isn't that good of a roster anymore. It's a lot of the same guys that we rode in 2017 to win the Super Bowl, and those people aren't getting any older. I mean, they're not getting any younger. They're not getting any faster. And on the offensive side of the ball, there are 0 people that can create separation on the team, which makes it harder for Wentz. Although Wentz isn't having a great year, there isn't a single person on that team that can get open on man coverage. Not a single person. Ertz, Alshon, Aguilar can't catch. Nobody has the speed to get open. They're all just big bodies in the red zone, and if you can't get into the red zone, it doesn't matter. And as far as the defense goes, if you let up 37 points to the Miami Dolphins, I don't see how a defensive coordinator can keep his job after that. It's been a theme all year. The secondary has been horrible really since like the early 2000s. It seems like we can't get a cornerback right to save our lives. Nothing is going like our season hoped. Like going into the season, we're looking at like hoping 12-4, get the NFC Championship, see what happens. But like every other week with this team, like you look, we can still win the division somehow. And it's all false hope for Eagles fans because it's a pretty easy schedule to like wind out the season. You have the Giants twice, the Redskins, and the big all-important game against the Cowboys. But this team isn't good enough to beat the Dolphins. I don't know what makes people think they're going to be able to run the table and get into and win the division this year, only to get ran through by Seattle or whoever loses that division. There's really no point to have hope for the rest of the season.
I think you said it best. I mean, here's my take on the Eagles as an outsider. The way I see it is the Eagles are underperforming, but not as much as I think Eagles fans think. I think like you thought 12-4, and that's admirable. That's cute. It's okay. It's a look. It's a look. But I don't know. I was thinking like, before the season, I was thinking Eagles maybe 10-6, maybe 11-5 if they're lucky. But I'll tell you this loss against the Dolphins can really change. It can change momentum in either direction. It can either be the thing that lights a fire up your butt and says, you know what, we need to figure this out. You can win these last 4 games because they are all winnable games. 2 against the Giants, 1 against Washington. So that's 3 wins right there. That's at least 8 wins. And then obviously you have to beat Dallas. The funny thing is, even at 5-7, the Eagles still control their own destiny, which is where you want to be in December. I don't care where you actually are. And the thing is about the Eagles is in the playoffs last 2 years, I don't think there's been one game where people thought the Eagles were going to win. Yet they did it. 3 times. They're 3-1 in the last 2 years in the playoffs, and I feel like, at least for me, I expected them to lose every single one of the games they've played in the playoffs last 2 years, but they've proven me wrong 3 times out of 4. So, that's the one thing that this team has is hope, and they have experience on their side in the playoffs. Granted, the number 5 seed in the NFC this year is going to be one of the best number 5 seeds in history because it's probably going to be either San Francisco or Seattle, both of whom already have 10 wins. So, I mean, look, Chris, I'll tell you this right now. I think that your concerns are very valid, but also I think that you don't need to hit the panic button just yet.
I don't see how you can after you lose to the Dolphins.
I mean, yes.
37 points?
Losing to the...
Let's remember, this time last year, we were out on the Eagles. We had ruled the Eagles out this time last year, too.
That's true.
And you've got two things.
But they didn't lose to the Dolphins.
They didn't lose to the Dolphins, but you know what? That's the wake-up call. That's when you have the players-only meeting and you make a rally.
How many players-only meetings do you think they've had this year, Chris?
Probably this should be number 2.
One
after the Lions game, and then one now.
Yeah. I mean, how do you fix this? How do you fix the Eagles right now? Like, what is the one thing you would do to push the Eagles back in the right direction?
Well, unless there's like a yard sale on cornerbacks, I don't know how we're gonna, let up less than 37 points. But what we can do is get the tight ends and the running backs involved more in the passing game. I feel like Miles Sanders getting matched up on a linebacker is a mismatch nightmare. Every single time you get matched up on a linebacker, Miles Sanders can get open. The receiving core isn't going to get separation. You have to use those other guys to create offense. And I think that's what I would look to create more offense. But, we scored 31 points against Miami. Like, the offense wasn't the problem there. It's just been the defense.
Yeah, and I think what happened is teams are very likely to underestimate the Dolphins just because of, where they started the year. And if you look at the Dolphins, I actually think they've won 3 of their last 5 or something like that. It's 3 of their last 5 wins. They started out 0-7 and now they've won 3 of 5. So, I mean, the Dolphins aren't the team that was there at the beginning of the season. I think they kind of also felt that, you know what, we don't want to go out like this. We don't want to be remembered for this. They're just going to be remembered as an unforgettable, 4-win team or unforgettable, or forgettable 5-win team at best. But I think it was just some kind of, the thing is, they didn't have anything to lose. They don't have anything to lose. They don't have anything to play for. The Eagles did. And I think that was shown on Sunday is they had a lot more, they had a lot more pressure on them. The Dolphins are playing this season without any kind of pressure. And when you don't play with pressure, you tend to play a little bit better, I think. John, would you agree with that?
Oh, I'd absolutely agree with that. Also, I think when they gave Fitzmagic the reins and said, this is your team, I think that kind of sparked the run. And he's been playing some really good football, so I agree. I think they're an underestimated team right now.
I mean, Chris, so I guess we're trying to soften the blow here a little bit. I think we're trying to defend the Dolphins for being so good, which is kind of crazy considering, the team that they were at the beginning of the season. But now they sit at 3-9. Maybe their best win of the season, but, So Eagles-Giants, Monday Night Football. And it's in Philly, right? It's in Philly?
Yeah, it is.
So what do you expect to see after this game?
Monday Night Football at home, you already expect to see a fired-up team, ready to go. Coming off the most embarrassing loss of the Doug Peterson era, you have to expect a blowout. The Giants are not a good football team. This is a division rival. You already are fired up to begin with. There's no reason for this team to come out flat. And at this point, if they do, Jim Schwartz could be coaching for his job. If the defense comes out flat again, it could be like you said, it's this type of game where the team can either fall apart or it can rally together and win these last couple games. But I still don't think we're going to beat Dallas at home. So in the end, it's not going to matter. But this team needs to come out hot, right out of the gate, which we haven't been able to do. We're a horrible first quarter team, across the whole season, which is on coaching. I mean, if you're not prepared to come out in the first quarter and score points and play well, that's a coaching thing.
It's a problem.
Yeah. So you have to expect them to come out fired up.
Yeah. So the one thing that's also keeping the Eagles in this playoff race is the fact that the Cowboys are also just not very good. Not very good, the Cowboys. Cowboys lost last Thursday, which honestly feels like years ago at this point. This week has just been really long. I think just the getting back into the flow of things is just It's difficult at this time of the semester, and days are turning into weeks, and weeks are turning into months. But Dallas, they lost to the Bills on Thanksgiving Day, their third loss in the last 4 games. The Bills are a good football team, 9-3, and that it didn't surprise me that the Cowboys lost on Thursday. It didn't surprise me. The Bills are a good football team, and they lost to a better football team. But let's talk about why Dallas lost. Is it because Buffalo's just that good, or John, did Dallas let this slip through their hands?
Yeah, I think Jerry Jones has just completely lost this Dallas locker room. I think it's strange because Dallas has showed us time and time again this year that they are not a good football team, but it's like we almost don't want to believe that because we can look at the amount of talent on this roster. I think you also have to ask the question, is Buffalo better than we think they are?
So why, I want to go back to Dallas. Why do you think they're not a good football team? Because they have, look at the roster.
Exactly. You look at the roster, there's talent up and down, but they haven't beat one good team.
They haven't.
I think it's got to come down to coaching. I mean, he doesn't have the locker room. It's really one of the biggest mysteries in the NFL right now why Dallas is playing so bad. I think they need to get back to what they're doing well. They need to implement more of a power run game that seems to be making a comeback in the NFL right now. So first step is getting a new coach in there. Yeah,
so I'm going to try to diagnose the Cowboys here now.
Please do, because I'm
going to try to do
confused.
It. I think the injury with Vander Esch is really kept the defense stagnant, because Leighton Vander Esch proved last season that he is going to be a huge factor for that defense in the years and years to come. Almost kind of like Luke Kuechly is for Carolina. That's how, I'm not saying he's as good as Luke Kuechly, but I am saying that he is as important to that defense that Luke Kuechly is to Carolina's defense. So I guess I'm comparing them in that regard.
It's like he's stepping into the Sean Lee's shoes.
Yeah,
he was so important for that defense.
And Sean Lee, and obviously, having Sean Lee in the raft, it feels like Sean Lee has just kind of been like an assistant coach for them for a couple of years now. I mean, granted, he still suits up, but he's obviously not the same as he once was. And I think Vander Esch's absence hurts them a lot more than what. Because the thing is, I actually don't think that they're poorly coached on the defensive side. Rod Marinelli is a respected defense coordinator. He has, he's been there for years already. Chris Richards there as well. He's a head coaching candidate. They've proven in years past that, this coaching staff has been able to get more. It's amazing because in years past, they have been better with less. But now that they have more, they are underperforming. It's like they can't execute. That's what it is. They have Amari Cooper. They can't get Amari Cooper going. They have Ezekiel Elliott, which he should be the leading rusher every year he's in the NFL. He has the potential for that. He has the offensive line for it. He has the offense to do it in, and they're not feeding him enough. 12 carries. Granted, you were trailing most of this game, but here's my thing. They were never trailing by more than 2 scores in the game, right? I mean, maybe in the fourth quarter, but the thing is, when you're at home, you have a sense of comfort, and even no deficit is too large, and that's probably they need to be able to score early, and they weren't able to do that. And then it kind of the thing is, I feel like
I think the turnovers caught up to them.
It did, and that, but also Dak forced those turnovers came off of Dak, and when Dak's not going the way he should.
Franchise tag.
I mean, at this point, that he definitely made a better case for the franchise tag on Thursday than he did for a major contract. But when something doesn't work, if you want different results, you got to change something. If you do the same thing every time, you're gonna get the same results. And what they got was just Dak continuing to lead the offense into no points. No points.
Yeah, I just feel like whenever you're going to ask Dak to throw the ball 49 times in a game, you're usually not going to win the football game. And it wasn't like it was a blowout where he had to. The Buffalo Bills only scored 26 points. Like that isn't a reason to completely abandon the run game like they did. Dak's not the type of quarterback that's going to put the team on his shoulders and carry you to a win. So whenever you're throwing the ball 49 times with him, you're not going to win the football game.
Like, I just what was their game plan going into that game? The thing? It's almost like they had a plan and then they abandoned it and didn't know what to do.
Well,
they looked lost.
I think that sums up Dallas Cowboys football during the Jason Garrett regime.
Yeah, I mean,
it didn't look any different than the Dallas Cowboys I've seen over the Jason Garrett era.
That's true. But John, you brought something up earlier, and it's something that I do want to look at. Was this game just the fact that the Cowboys just aren't that good, or are we overlooking this Bills team here? 9-3, they are one game behind of the best record in the league, and they control their own destiny for the number one seed in the AFC. If you told me at the beginning of the season that in the first week of December that the Bills would be in control of their own destiny for the first seed, I would have told you to go to a doctor or something. But here we are, December 4th, 2019, and the Bills are 9-3. John, was this game the Cowboys losing or the Bills winning?
I think it was the Bills winning. Listen, this team is playing really good football right now. If you look at the Bills throughout the year, they're one of the best teams in football, and it's time to accept it. I think we don't want to accept that because they're the Buffalo Bills. But here's the thing. They know what they do well, and they do it, okay? They play good defense. They don't ask Josh Allen to do too much, and that's when you know your identity as a football team, that's going to win you a lot of games.
Yeah, I think, Chris, what do you agree with John here?
I don't. I mean, the Bills deserve to win the football game on Thursday, but I don't think we're underestimating the Bills. Their best win before this was against the Marcus Mariota Titans team. I mean, if in the playoffs, I would be shocked if they beat any of the other division winners in the first round.
So here's the thing: the Bills are 5-1 on the road. You mentioned that their best win of the season is against the 7-5 Titans, but this is their proving hour. They have 3 games right now against teams that are currently in the playoff picture. This weekend against the 10-2 Ravens. Then you go to Pittsburgh, play Sunday Night Football against the 7-5 Steelers, who have won 6 of 7. Then you go to New England on a short week to play the Patriots, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But this is prove it time for the Bills right now, John. Of those 3 games, give me a record. Is this 3-0, 2-1, 1-2, 0-3?
I'd say 3-0. They're
really.
Listen, they are beating the Ravens on Sunday.
So let me get this. Okay, Jon Whitley, just let it be known that at 10:29 a.m. on December 4th, 2019, Jonathan Whitley, right here at Jon Whitley 10 on Twitter, said that the Buffalo Bills will win the next 3 football games, will beat the 10-2 Ravens, will beat the Steelers on the road, and will beat the Patriots on the road in December in Foxborough. And they will be 12-3 going into Week 17 of the NFL football season. Chris, can you tap John on his shoulder, ask him if I can have some of what he has this morning? and so I can have it because that would make me feel real good.
So laugh now, call me a genius in 3 weeks.
Okay, laugh now, call me a genius in 3 weeks. I will call you in 3 weeks. I don't know if I'll call you a genius in 3 weeks, but I will call you in 3 weeks to see if this is right. Chris, now I'm going to ask you a question here. Do you agree with John?
No, they're not going to win one of the three. Like, we couldn't be on further ends of the spectrum at this point. They're going to go 0-3 in these next three. You're going to have the highs with the Bills, the lows with the Bills throughout the season, and then at the end of the year, they're going to be 10-6, and they're going to get bounced in the first round. Like, all this talk with the Bills throughout the whole year, are they good, are they not good, is a waste of time because they're just a 10-6 football team with a good defense and not really a good offense, and then they're going to lose to whoever, Houston in the first round. It doesn't really matter. That's really just how the season's going to come down to. They're not beating the Ravens. They're not beating the Steelers because they won't be able to score more than a touchdown in the game. And they're not beating New England.
So, John.
They might even lose to the Jets.
John, make a case here for
They
the
are
Bills.
Listen, they're beating the Ravens this Sunday. The Ravens are coming off a big, emotional, hard-fought win against the 49ers. They're a little beat up coming into this game. And the Bills are hot. They've had the long week to prepare. And that offense isn't going to come easy against this Bills defense. They play good team defense. You rarely see them out of position. Okay? So if they can make it a game going into the fourth quarter, they are going to win this game.
I mean, like, I don't necessarily actually have a problem with that take. I actually don't fully disagree with you. I actually, like, the Ravens are on upset alert this week. Like, that,
Yeah.
They're on the road. The Bills have had the extra week to recover. They are playing, in the cold, which I don't think really affects the game, actually. But anyway, that's not my problem with what you said. My problem is you think that the Bills will beat the Patriots in Foxborough. So why are you so high on this Bills team right now? Is it what is it?
Well, okay, so
what's the secret sauce?
So I've explained why they're going to get this win at home against Baltimore.
Okay.
They're now going to steamroll the Steelers because the
Steamroll the
Steelers stink.
The Steelers steamroll the stinking
Okay.
Steelers.
And now the Patriots are.
I love that.
And now it's not. Now we go into
that made me so
Foxborough. I'm not even so high on the Bills at this point as I'm out on the Patriots. They're a struggling football team right now. Tom Brady cannot find open receivers. Not Tom Brady's fault. His receivers just can't get open. So unless the Steelers bring back Antonio Brown or N'Keal Harry starts playing like the first round pick he is, then you know what? They're going to win that football game. They already lost the Patriots once. They're not losing to them again.
Yeah. So, Chris. So now let's shift gears here to the Patriots because we got them on the mind. Patriots obviously did not play their best football this past Sunday in a loss to the Texans, which still puzzles me and excites me greatly. But the Patriots, they look like they need to hit the panic button. Would you agree with that?
I'm not hitting it yet. I'm gonna bet on Brady and I'm gonna bet on Belichick until it proves to me otherwise. There's been way too many years. Like, it seems like every year for the last 4, is this the year? Is this the year? And every single time we say that, they end up in the Super Bowl. So I'm not going to hit the panic button yet. Their offense has not looked good in the last month. Well, they haven't really looked good all season, but this last month has been different. Like, they look bad on offense, but it's Tom Brady. Like, he's going to figure it out. He always does. There's no reason to believe otherwise. Because just look at the history. He's going to show up in the playoffs. He's going to show up when it matters, and they'll be fine.
I agree with you to an extent, but let's look at the recent history here. Tom Brady, Sunday, 24 of 47, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Most of those complete passes came in garbage time. Let's mind you that. Barely over 50%. Against Dallas, 17 of 37, 1 touchdown, 190 yards. Granted, that game was in, the rain, but I mean, Tom Brady's been able to do that in the past. Why not this year? Then you look at Philly, 26 of 47, 216 yards. Like, to me, what I'm seeing here is, ever since that Baltimore game, things have started to, teams have started to kind of doubt the Patriots here. And, because the Philly win wasn't super exciting, and, the Dallas win was kind of dull as well. But here's my thing about the Patriots. The Patriots remind me a lot of Peyton Manning's last team with the Broncos. the team had the best defense in the league, and a passing game that was almost non-existent, but they had a running game that was able to do damage. And I think that the Patriots this year show shades of that. I don't think they're a carbon copy of it, but there are shades of that Broncos team that did win a Super Bowl. And I still believe that the Patriots should be considered the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Now, that is a bit of a hot take, but I do agree with you, Chris, on the fact that it's, the way I see it is in the justice world, you're innocent until proven guilty. And in my opinion, in the NFL, you are the champion until proven otherwise.
I think they're starting to look a little guilty right now. I think Tom Brady showed big signs of frustration since the Baltimore game. He seemed frustrated after the Eagles win. He seemed frustrated after the Cowboys win. And I think Sunday night we saw what Tom Brady was seeing with this football team. And you got the red-hot Kansas City Chiefs coming to town this week. They take a loss by a big margin in that game. It's going to deflate this team like they deflated the footballs a few years ago.
I mean, what I will say though, John, is they're having these struggles, but it's week 13. It's week 14.
But if this wasn't if their team name wasn't the New England Patriots, we would be totally out on this team right now.
So
but the problem is they are called the New England Patriots.
So here's my thing though. So let's because the thing is despite how look, even if the Chiefs beat the Patriots this weekend, the Patriots are still going to be a top 2 seed, and they have a pretty easy schedule the last 3 weeks. Their hardest game is against the Bills at home.
Yeah, it's the Bills, Bengals, and the Dolphins.
The Bills, Bengals, and Dolphins. You win 2 of those for sure. And probably will win a third, either against the Chiefs or the Bills. And also the thing is about Bill Belichick is how many times in Bill Belichick's career it's been very rare that he's gone, had 2 really bad losses. Because the thing is, when the Patriots lose, it's a bad loss. I don't care if there's no good losses when the Patriots, because the Patriots are expected to win every game they play. So when they lose, it's, they're doing something wrong because they are built to win every game because they are coached well enough to where they can win every game. And I think what happened on Sunday was a result of simply the Patriots not being on the same page. Tom Brady was not on the same page with his receivers. There were several times throughout the game where he would throw the ball one way and the receiver would go the other way. And he really only has that rapport, that long-standing rapport with James White and Julian Edelman. And you even saw it in the Super Bowl last year where Julian Edelman was really the only one able to get targets. He doesn't have Gronk this year. He doesn't have that, and that's what he needs. He needs that tight end to step up. And the one person that I think can do that for this offense is Ben Watson. And I think it's like a secret play because Ben Watson has known Tom Brady for a while. He played with Tom Brady in the past. And that's what this offense needs. They don't necessarily need another receiver, I don't think. I think they're doing just fine with the receivers they have. I think Edelman gets the grunt of the targets, which is fine. I think that he's your best player on offense, or at least in the receiving room. He's the best player on that offense, so he should get the majority of the targets. But you need and the thing is also they have so many running backs that could shoulder the load as well. And that offensive line is really good. So why not run the football a little more? That's the thing is we're in a league right now, John, where we have said so many times that it's a passing league, but for most of the teams that are doing well, you look at the Ravens, you look at the Niners, you look at those teams that are at the top of their game, they're doing it by running the football. So maybe the teams that want to be on that level should take a play out of their playbook and just go run, power run that football.
I agree. I think I'm glad you brought up that point because I think the pendulum is kind of swing back to it being a power run league. I think the Patriots have the most rigid offense in the league, and I think they just have a glaring need in that when they get into the red zone, they they can't punch it in, and I think a lot of that comes down to you're missing Gronkowski, and you straight up do not have the receiving core this year. Nobody can get open, and nobody can make that play in the red zone that Tom Brady needs. So I think you maybe bring in some receivers in free agency, make a run next year. But there is a glaring problem with this offense, and I don't see any silver lining. So if you're relying on Ben Watson to be the spark for your offense, you've got a problem.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point, because Ben Watson was retired a couple of months ago, and and wasn't playing for most of the season. But what I will say is this: so the Patriots here, if they're going to make a deep run, they're going to have to play some teams that have really good offenses. Deshaun Watson was the first quarterback this season against the Patriots to throw for more than one touchdown. Like, the defense is insanely good, and they're going to have to play some really good offenses. If their first game is likely going to be against either the Chiefs or the Texans, and then if they make it to the AFC Championship game, you're probably going to face the Ravens. So those are three really good offenses that you have to go through. You're going to have to go through at least two of them if you want to make it to the Super Bowl. And then if you go to the Super Bowl, you're probably going to have to play another team like the Saints, the Niners, also really solid, stout offenses. So how do you beat those kind of offenses? You play the possession game. You run the football. You don't hurry it up. And that's exactly what is perfect for Tom Brady right now. Tom Brady has a 40-year-old body, and I think we're starting to see more of that, as the season goes along. I think that he's had to work for a lot this year, more so than in years past. I don't think the physical game is coming as naturally to him as it used to. But the thing is, they have enough running backs to get the job done. You have a change of pace in Burkhead. You have a change of pace in James White. Sony Michel can get you 6 yards on any given play, and you have they're deep at that position. So why not use that depth, Chris?
They're deep, but at the same time, Sony Michel is going to be like your lead back, and he's averaging 3.5 yards per carry, and I think that's been the problem. If he steps it up, and he can, from now till the end of the season, average like 4.5 yards a carry like it was last season, then that helps his offense tremendously. But at this point, they're just not getting any yards on the ground from Sony Michel, so they have to rely more on Brady and these receivers that can't get open. But I do agree with you that Ben Watson has to be the guy, because what Brady, we saw some of this with Brady last year, but he always had Gronk to go to on third downs to just kind of bail him out because he's just such a big body, and Gronk's not walking through that door this season as much as New England Patriots fans thought he was going to. It's not going to happen. So it has to be Ben Watson, and it has to be an improved Sony Michel, because James White's not going to lead your team in rushing, or Rex Burkhead. It has to come through Sony Michel.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing is they use James White to change the pace. They use Rex Burkhead to change the pace. They use it to create different looks that, White could run the ball, White could go out for a pass, go out for a screen, anything like that. But Sony Michel is strictly a running back. Like he is not a pass catching running back. He is there simply to go through the trenches, get you your small gain of yardage, and then move on. I mean, he's a first and second down running back. So that's what they need to do. They need to run the ball on first down with Sony, run the ball on second down with Sony, come at third and short, hit Edelman for a 4-yard gain, and you got a first down. Or you hit James White for a 4-yard gain, first down. Like, it doesn't, and the thing is, that's really, that's a recipe for success. That's John, you're giving me a perplexed look.
It's a recipe for success. I don't think it's realistic. You're not gonna you can't sustain a postseason run based on that. Like, what happens when they stop that? Now what are you gonna do?
And that might be what the Patriots' problem is.
It is their problem. Listen. This offense looks terrible. Like, if you compare the numbers, Tom Brady's not much better than Mitch Trubisky right now. Like, it's time to accept the fact that Tom Brady's run really may be at its end. Like, everything we're seeing is pointing to that, but for whatever reason, we don't want to accept it.
Yeah. I think, though, with so here's the thing with the Patriots. Patriots defense is really good, I think, at getting stops. But lately, they haven't been able to turn the ball over as much as I think they need to. And that's the thing is, because the offense is so poor, they need the defense to step up. It's almost like the Steelers are a good example here. The Steelers have some of the worst quarterback play this season so far. Mason Rudolph has started most of their games, but they've continued to win. Why have they been continuing to win? Because that defense scores for them. The defense makes plays for them. The defense gives them short fields. The defense, and that's the thing is the defense, while they are stout, they haven't been able to turn the ball over lately. And if they want to win games, they're going to need to win games that are, maybe 20-17, 20-13, 17-13. That's how the Patriots are going to win these football games down the stretch. They're going to have to get stops on these quarterbacks, and that's also the problem is the quarterbacks they're going to have to play are really good at not turning the football over. Mahomes hardly ever turns the football over. Deshaun Watson hardly ever turns the football over. And Lamar Jackson, same thing with him. They don't turn the ball over that often. Like when Lamar Jackson fumbled the football, I thought it was a glitch. I thought it was a glitch. I thought I was watching Madden and it was a glitch. Like I really didn't think it was actually a thing. So that's their challenge is how are they going to be able to conquer these offenses that are, in my opinion, the 2 or 3 best offenses in the entire league.
I think
they're going to get a chance to do that with the Chiefs this weekend. So let's focus on the Chiefs, on the Patriots-Chiefs game right now. Finish the sentence for me, Chris. The Patriots will win against the Chiefs on Sunday because...
Well, I don't think they are, but
Okay.
if they are going to win, it's going to be because they're like you said, they're going to create turnovers, and they're going to get short fields for Tom Brady to put up points.
So finish this sentence for me. The Chiefs will win on Sunday because... John.
Because they're the hot team right now. They've gotten back to doing what they do well. They're running the football in Patrick Mahomes is being Patrick Mahomes. The defense is forcing turnovers. I think you're going to see Tron Matthew with an interception. Tom Brady's throwing at least one interception in this game. That's for sure. So the Patriots play. To sum it up, the Chiefs are the hot team right now. They found their stride.
I want to look up when the last time the Patriots lost back-to-back games. I really don't know when the last time that was. It could have been.
While you're looking that up, I'll say though, I think you're spot on with the solution for the Patriots. It's not Ben Watson, it's not Sony Michel. It's this defense has to be an all-time great defense, and that might be it.
Okay, so the last time they lost back-to-back games was Week 14, the Miracle in Miami, and Week 15 against the Steelers. And what did they follow that up with? 5 straight wins to the Super Bowl.
That's what's going to happen this week, too.
I mean...
This Chiefs game will be the last loss for the Patriots for the whole season.
I think the difference this year from that year, though, is this Buffalo Bills is a different animal than it was back then.
So, and also, I think that they're going to need home field advantage in a way. I think it's going to be like they struggled mightily against the Ravens on the road, and they struggled mightily against the Texans on the road. They're perfect at home this year. The last home loss in December, they have this thing. I don't have the record off the top of my head, but they have this thing where they haven't lost at home in December in I want to say over 10 years. It's a really long time. But I will say this though. If any team's going to do it, it could very well be Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who did come off of a really big win this past weekend against the Raiders. 40-9 was the final score. And this is the one difference between this game that we saw from the Chiefs and previous games is that defense looked scary. At times when that defense earlier in the season looked just absolutely lost. This defense was, dialed in, and they put out their best performance of the season, and it wasn't even that close. John, is this a turning point for this defense, or was this a fluke?
Oh, I think it's a turning point, and I think they're going to keep swinging in that direction. I think they're healthy. I think the Honey Badgers focused and locked in. And frankly, I don't see what New England's going to do on this defense. I think they're going to stop the run, and Tom Brady, at this point in his career, can't beat him with his arm and making those plays.
Chris, the Chiefs. So there's a lot of teams here in the AFC that have, talking points. Make the case for the Chiefs as to why they should be the top dog in the AFC right now.
Well, because when their offense is clicking, there's nobody that can stop them. Patrick Mahomes is just that special throwing the football that when they're playing at their best, if every team in the NFL plays at their best, the Chiefs win. Like, that's basically just what it comes down to, because they can put 40 on anybody. It just comes down to, is Patrick Mahomes going to turn the ball over? Is he going to have a little bit of an off day? We've seen it a couple times this year, but it hasn't been like it's not a glaring issue. But when he's clicking, they're going to win the football game. That's really all it comes down to.
I mean, if you look at the stats, 15 of 29, 175 yards, a touchdown. That's not his best line of the season.
And that fires me up as a Chiefs fan, because the run game and the defense stepped up. Patrick Mahomes can make the play when he needs to make the play.
Yeah.
So to see the rest of the team stepping up like that, I think would fire me up as a Chiefs fan.
It's true. 3 rushing touchdowns, one from LaShawn McCoy, one from Darwin Thompson, who I drafted on my fantasy team, and he's no longer on my fantasy team, but he finally showed up. Touchdown. Mahomes also had a rushing touchdown. But, yeah, I will say this. The thing is, this is the first time, I think, in Patrick Mahomes' career where he didn't have to do all that much and the Chiefs dominated. And it's because the defense has not been up to par since he's gotten there. And the running game has not really been up to par since he got there. I guess since Kareem Hunt left. But is this sustainable from the defense and the running game, Chris?
No, this defense isn't that good. They played great because, they played Derek Carr. It's a little bit easier when Derek Carr is the quarterback you're going up against. He threw 2 picks. This defense isn't all of a sudden just going to turn it on. The playmakers on this team that we've seen in the past are gone. The Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, is he's been the highlight of this defense the last couple of weeks. But as far as the rest of the defense, they're not. New players aren't walking through the door. It's just not that good of a defense. They just played really well this week.
Yeah, John, is this how sustainable is this running game and defense?
It's very sustainable, in my opinion, because you look at this defense, it's a solid defense, but now you throw a turnover machine like the Honey Badger, it's a really, really good defense. And not a great defense, but a really, really good defense, because, you can come up with stops, and then when you need that big play, Honey Badger's going to get you that ball.
And that's been the criticism of this defense this year, is the fact that they haven't really been able to get the big play all that often. But and look, they had the pick 6, they had the safety in here, so that's 9 points that your defense is creating. But I will say this: when it comes to witching hour, when it comes to when the Chiefs have to put up or shut up, they're going to have to go against some really high-powered offenses. And if you have a defense that can get a stop, or if you have a running game that can buy you some clock, can kill you some clock, that is going to be really valuable down the stretch. And that's going to be really valuable in January when you have to go and play the Ravens or the Patriots or the Texans. I'll say this. Kansas City, if they go into Foxborough and they beat the Patriots, will that change your opinion that you have now about the Chiefs, Chris?
No, not one bit. I expect them to win, but in the playoffs, I do not expect them to win, just because I don't think in the playoffs you need a running game and a defense, and LaShawn McCoy's your leading rusher with 410 yards on the whole season, and I don't think that defense is that good. An explosive, high-powered throwing offense does not win championships in this league. We've seen it every single year. This team is built for the regular season. It's not built for the playoffs.
I disagree. I think you bring up a good point. Shady McCoy only has 410 on the season, but I think Andy Reid is a smart man, and he's keeping Shady fresh for this playoff run. I think it's not what you've done for me, it's what you've done for me lately, and lately it seems like Shady McCoy started turning on at the right time.
Yeah, they have several running backs that they can turn to. Damian Williams obviously was out. They've recently signed Spencer Ware back to the team to try to. So like they have guys there that can that can make plays. And Darrell Williams has been surprisingly good this year, but now he's injured. So that like they have to utilize that depth, and maybe because the running backs have not been as elusive, they might have to go to the passing game a little bit more. That's why I really want them to draft a running back this year, and I'm sure they will go for a running back probably before Saturday on draft weekend. I actually think that they might get like their future Jamal Charles kind of running back that they can keep there for a decent long time. I think they tried to do that with Kareem Hunt.
They had him,
but obviously didn't work out.
You can't hit the women.
Cannot hit the women or the
kids.
kids.
Do that.
Women and children are off limits, and we do not condone violence on the Hitting the Field podcast.
No.
But anyway, so we've talked about the Chiefs, we've talked about the Patriots, but now I want to go back to the Texans here. So the Texans obviously beat the Patriots. They beat the Chiefs this year. So is this Texans team legit or not legit? John, is this team legit or not legit?
This Texans team. Listen, I think Deshaun Watson is one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But every time I turn on the Texans, he's in trouble. They can't seem to protect him.
You must not have watched this past weekend. He was not in trouble this weekend at all.
Well, can they sustain that? That's my question. That's my question mark with the Texans. Can they keep Deshaun Watson upright? And if they can, then I really like this team to make a run.
Yeah, Chris, legit or not legit?
I think they're legit. I mean, Deshaun Watson is someone who's not gonna put your team in trouble, and he has the arm talent to make plays down the stretch. You have the best wide receiver in football. Carlos Hyde has been a really, really great surprise for you guys this year. He's going to eclipse 1,000 yards for the season. I do think this team's legit. I think the only thing that can hold them back is Coach Bill O'Brien, who is probably going to get to keep his job again because they're 8-4 and they're going to win the division. But until that changes, I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. But they can beat. They have the talent to beat anybody in the AFC.
So I think there's a case here that this Texans team is the best team in franchise history. I really believe this team could be the best team in franchise history, even better than the team that started out 10-1.
I'm sorry to tell you this. That's not saying a whole lot.
It isn't. No, you're very right. The bar is very low. There's not a whole lot of history when it comes to the Texans. I want to say this is year 17 or 18 in the franchise. So obviously that's not a lot to go off of. But it's true. It's true. I actually think that this team. This is what I'll edit what I just said. This team has the highest ceiling. There you go. That's the answer. The highest ceiling of any team in franchise history, because they have the quarterback that can do it. The defense, although they have been injured this year, they're starting to get healthy again. That secondary.
Yeah, what about that secondary?
Here's the thing about the secondary. They made, and look, it's Patriots receivers. They made them look silly on Sunday. Bradley Roby looked like an animal. And the thing is, Bradley Roby hadn't played for like a month and a half before that because he was injured. He's been injured pretty much ever since early October. But he came back on Sunday and he looked really good. Like he looked like he was worth the $10 million signing that we gave him in March, which, I mean, you have pieces there that can look. The thing is, what they've done here is ever since they traded their future, pretty much they are like they pretty much did. They traded 2 first-round picks for Kenny Stills, and then they threw in Laramie Tunsil. That's what I always say is they traded 2 firsts for Kenny Stills, and then Laramie Tunsil was kind of like, oh, you can have them too. But what they've done since then, and they traded Jadeveon Clowney, got a 3rd-round pick in return. They turned that into Garyon Conley, a former first-round pick. Laramie Tunsil, former first-round pick. Vernon Hargreaves, former first-round pick. Barkevious Mingo, although he's not really much of a factor in that defense, former first-round pick. This defense is full of former first-round picks. Bradley Roby, another example, former first-round pick. So they have talent that, and they've got a lot of reclamation projects on that defense. They've got a lot of guys that kind of weren't wanted, but they were wanted at one point in their career, and they're trying to revitalize that and kind of bring it wide. And that we saw that with Vernon Hargraves. And I think he's going to play a big role down the stretch as the team's slot corner. And that the thing is, like, the Raven, like, I think the thing is, they said it on the broadcast on Sunday night, and I fully agree with this. Originally, the defense, ever since J.J. Watt entered the picture, has been built on their front seven. And the front seven was where the defense was, the foundation. Now the foundation is shifting from the pass rush to the secondary. And that might be even more important because of the teams that they're playing. It against the Chiefs, it really helps to have a decent, solid secondary. Against the Patriots, a team that likes to throw the ball, even though they probably shouldn't. Mm-hmm. Having a secondary was huge. Secondary, I want to say, won that game for the Texans. I really do.
I'd agree.
They were able to force Tom Brady to, make different looks, make different reads, and did a very, very good job. I'm as happy about this team that I've ever been. And you look at the Texans now, like, I'll tell you, if you told me at the beginning of the season that they would have beaten the Chiefs and the Patriots, I would have said, thanks, but I don't, thanks, but no thanks. Like, that's not going to happen. I'm not buying what you're selling. But you look here, and you're 8-4 going into December. You have 2 very winnable games against the Broncos and the Bucs, but you still have 2 games against the Titans left. And the Titans is where I want to go next. Because the Titans, this team is the most enigmatic team in the NFL. They're so hard to understand, but they sit here first week of December at 7-5, which is a good place to be if you're in the first week of December. Chris, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is this Titans team?
I mean, you said it best. This is the most confusing team in the NFL, and it's not close. I would say, how good are they? They're like a 6.5. They're rejuvenated with Ryan Tannehill coming in and being their starting quarterback because it was never going to happen with Marcus Mariota. Derrick Henry has played amazing this year, a lot better than I expected for sure. And they do have, they have a pretty tough schedule the rest of the way. They have the Raiders this week, and then it's the Texans, the Saints, and the Texans. So this very well could be an 8-8 team, and I think it will be. But they have some impressive wins on the they kind of blew out the Colts. They beat the Chiefs. It doesn't this team doesn't make any sense.
And then also,
I actually don't think the Titans are that confusing. I think ever since they made the quarterback change, they've been playing really good football, and I think that they're gonna get that second wild card spot because the teams they're competing with for it have kind of cooled down. So, and they're playing really, really good defense. They're running the ball well, and Tannehill's making the plays they need him to make.
Tannehill's 5-1 as the starter.
Yeah,
5-1.
I think they're a first round exit, but I think they get that second wild card spot.
I mean,
it's not confusing.
You know what would be funny is if they get the Chiefs in the first round.
Yeah,
and the thing is they have the Chiefs number for whatever reason, and the Chiefs just simply can't figure out the Titans. So,
Andy Reid will have something for him.
He always does, and it never really materializes. But
this is playoff football. This is big boy football.
Here's what I'll say about the Titans. I think what we're seeing from the Titans is Ryan Tannehill doesn't make mistakes, and that's the most important thing. He lets Derrick Henry do what he does, and he doesn't make mistakes. That's why they've been winning games. They don't turn the ball over, and the defense has been able to hold up because they've been scoring so many points. They have scored, in the last 3 weeks, 35-32 win, 42-20 win, 31-17 win. They are one of the highest scoring offenses in the last month or so of the season. They're dropping 30 a game. like it's nothing. And they're doing it all while under the radar because they don't have that star quality that the other teams around them do. So, I mean, so here's the thing. So, Chris, you said 1-3. Why? Why? Like, what will happen to create this result?
Well, so I feel like late in the honestly, my big thing is quarterback play. And looking late in the season, you have to play Deshaun Watson twice and Drew Brees once. And I think that's basically what it comes down to. And that's why I think they'll lose the games. I just don't trust Ryan Tannehill that much. He's played well. He's played very well since he's come under center these last 6 games. But he's not on the same level as Watson and Brees. And I think that's just what it's going to come down to.
So, John, make the argument for the Titans? Why are they going to be? What is their record going to be at the end of the season?
Listen, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. They've got a tough slate of games coming up, but I think they're gonna go 2-2 because I think
very good for 9-7.
Yeah, I think they beat the Ravens. Or sorry, not the Raiders. I think they beat the Raiders this week because the Raiders
this week
come back to earth, and then you're pulling off the upset against either the Texans, Saints, or
so you split against the Texans.
I think you split against the Texans. You lose to the Saints in a close game, and then beat the Texans to close out the season and get that wild card spot.
I think it's doable.
I think it comes down to this Sunday. I think the winner of this game Sunday against the Raiders controls that second wild card spot.
Right? Because I mean, hey, if the Raiders win, you're 7-6, same record as the Titans, possibly same record as the Steelers. If the Steelers lose, so. The AFC is far more unpredictable because you have so many different teams, but what is a little more predictable is the NFC. And that's where we're going to move over next. So, you have 10-2 New Orleans, 10-2 San Francisco, 10-2 Seattle. Of those 3 teams, who's the best? Who is the best?
Right now, I gotta say the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay. Explain.
Well, okay, they've won the games they need to win. And when we get into playoff football, I trust their quarterback. I trust their coach. They have the playoff experience on their side. San Fran, I think, while they've looked really good, I just think they choke in the playoffs because they don't have that playoff experience that Russell Wilson has. And the margin, I mean, from what we've seen so far, the Seahawks beat the 49ers. So they won the head-to-head matchup and they got playoff experience on their side.
The Seahawks have won. So the Seahawks have won 10 games this year. The amount of games they've won by more than one score. One of those 10 games was by more than one score.
I would make the case that helps you when you get into playoff football.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think out of these 3 teams, I think Seattle has the best offense. I think unquestionably the best offense. I think out of those 3 teams also, though, they have the worst defense. And that, to me, is why I think the San Francisco 49ers are the best team out of those 3.
But do you like the 49ers in the playoffs?
I do. Because I think that they can win. They've proven that they can win on the road. And that's the thing is the Seahawks are also better on the road. So whoever actually loses the division might be better off because the Seahawks play their best football on the road. And so do the Niners. And I think that the Niners have less pressure than the Seahawks do. I think that Garoppolo is less likely to make mistakes than Russell Wilson is. I do like Russell Wilson has the experience, and I think that's all fine and dandy, but I think Russell Wilson's also prone to more mistakes than Jimmy Garoppolo is. And the thing is, basically at this point, Garoppolo is the best game-managing quarterback in the entire league. He's a game manager, but hey,
He's got a very high upside for a game manager.
He very high upside for a game manager because he wins. He wins. And this is his first real opportunity to win in the postseason. And whether they're the 1 seed, whether they're the 2 seed, whether they're the 5 seed, I don't even think really matters. Because I think they can beat any team. They are the most capable team to beat any team that is in front of them. So, Chris, are you going to side with John here at the Seahawks? Going to side with the Niners here with me? Or are you going to go Switzerland and pick the Saints?
I'm with you. I think it's the Niners. When you get into the playoffs, you need the defense, and you said it best. They can play on the road if they need to, and that's big in the playoffs. Defense always travels, and that's going to be what's going to carry them throughout the playoff season. And they have a rushing attack with a bunch of guys. You have Mostert, who has come into the picture here, Matt Breida, you've had Tevin Coleman. Like, they can run the football on any team. And I agree with you. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the one that, makes a mistake. And I don't think he's going to need to make all those throws that puts you in a position to win, because they're going to be in control of the clock, and they're going to keep their opponent to a low score.
Go ahead, John.
Well, here's the thing: Russell Wilson's already shown he can beat this defense. Lamar Jackson's already shown he can beat this defense. You get into the playoffs, you're gonna have to beat two of the following: Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, or Russell Wilson.
They've beaten Aaron Rodgers.
They sure have, but not in the playoffs. Not playoff Aaron Rodgers. Not December Aaron Rodgers.
Here's the thing though: is of their losses, they have the best. And I know I'm saying best losses here, like it means something, but they have the best losses.
Well, then they'll have a great playoff loss.
Great playoff loss. But, in my opinion, you look at these two, you could make a case that they could have beaten Seattle. You could make a case they could have beaten Baltimore. So, I think what we're looking at from the Niners here is they also, I think, have a game plan that fits their personnel that can beat any team in the league, because they can run the football on anyone. And if you run the football on anyone, you're playing the clock. It's very similar to how the Patriots play. It really is, because and look, they got a Patriots quarterback in Garoppolo. So I think that you look at the Niners, and I think that they can create a game plan for really anybody. I think if you played the Saints, they're going to play the Saints this weekend. So I think their strategy to beat the Saints is they're going to run the football. They're going to make sure that that Drew Brees doesn't have enough time to have the football. Richard Sherman's going to be on Michael Thomas all game, and I don't think he's going to stop Michael Thomas, but I do think that he will limit him to his all-time potential, because that's what Richard Sherman does. That's what good corners do. And Michael Thomas is having a career year that is going so unnoticed, almost criminally unnoticed, the fact that he's had the year he's had, and he's getting very little attention for it. But I think that you look at the Niners, I think they have the best personnel around them to win. And that's why I'm going with the Niners.
I agree with you. I think what they do, they will be in every game they play in, because they can run the ball.
And that play, that's a lot in the playoffs.
It's huge. I just think when it comes down to those final 2 minutes, I'm just betting on the Russell Wilson, the Drew Brees, or the Aaron Rodgers.
That's true. If you want the ball last, Garoppolo's probably the third quarterback out of Brees and Wilson that I would want with the ball in their hands, because they've both gotten, several times in their career, game-winning drives, game-winning field goals.
It sounds like you're ruling out Aaron Rodgers.
And Aaron Rodgers. So okay, John, Packers fan right over here. I gave Chris his 2 minutes at the beginning of the show. Packers now, you get 2 minutes to talk anything Packers. Chris and I are going to sip our invisible cup of coffee, and we're going to respond to what you got to say. So the floor is yours.
Listen, it's been an up and down season so far. I think you've got to win out this season. You've got the Redskins next week. You have the Giants this past week. I'm encouraged by the way Rodgers played against the Giants. I think you win this game against the Redskins. Now you've got the 3 division games left. You beat Chicago. Mitch Trubisky can't put up enough points. He's throwing at least 2 interceptions on this defense. I think the Vikings game, you've got to win this game if you want to be taken serious come playoff time. I think it's Monday Night Football. We're going to see primetime Kirk. Packers get the win there. Close out the series with a big win against the Lions. Now you're in the playoffs, okay? I think this pass rush in the secondary I trust. It scares me how bad our run defense has been. I think it's easy to point out the holes on this team. The receiving core has been bad. I think most of our receiving core is fringe roster guys. I think you've got Devontae Adams and a bunch of fringe roster guys. That's what it comes down to. Here's the thing. Like I said, anybody can point out the glares on this offense. I sure hope we can run the ball in the playoffs, but you just can't rule out this team because Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback and he has that it factor. He can. You never know what's going to happen as long as he's at the helm.
Do you know why the Packers are not seen on the same level as all these other teams, though?
Why?
Week 9 at Los Angeles Chargers, 26-11. Chargers are 4-8, and then you lost to the Niners. Really, that to me was the big hammer.
I agree.
And the thing, and
that was their chance.
There have been a lot of games this year where top teams have met up, and I think that's why you see so many teams at the top tier right now, because they've all kind of gotten the chance to beat up on each other. Like the Saints played the Seahawks have played the Ravens have played the Niners. Like they've all gotten a chance to play each other and kind of, suss everyone out. And when it came time for the Packers to do that with the Niners, they kind of laid an egg.
Yeah. Listen, I do not think people are wrong to be sleeping on the Packers right now. Like I said, the weaknesses are glaring. My mom could point them out to you, and she doesn't even watch football. But like I said, Rodgers plays his best football in December. That defense, they force a couple unforeseen turnovers in Rodgers' magic factor. So you just can't rule them out as long as Rodgers is at the helm.
I mean, if you look at the schedule, I mean, that's 3 easy wins there. You're looking at it, this is a 12-win team. And if you beat the Vikings, you're looking at possibly a first round bye, possibly a 13-3. Could you imagine 3 13-3 teams, and some teams got to go play on Wild Card Weekend?
And here's the beauty of Aaron Rodgers: he plays great in a dome. He plays great in the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. So I'm not really worried about him traveling in the playoffs. I'm not worried about him playing at home in the playoffs.
So that's the thing, is he's either going to have to go on the road and get a big win here. Somewhere. Probably two, because at this point they're on the outside looking in when it comes to the top 2. It looks like it's going to be some combination of New Orleans and then either San Francisco, Seattle, whoever takes that division. So Packers are number 3, and although I will say this, you have sold me a little bit on the Packers. I will give you that. But how is this team? Because the thing is, how is this team going to respond? Like, Aaron Rodgers plays his best football in December, but he's going to have to play his best football in January, not December, if they want to win.
He can do that too.
Yeah?
Here's the beauty. Okay, I think Rodgers right now is in that sweet spot of playoff experience. I think Breeze a little over the hill. Russell Wilson not quite there yet. Rodgers in that sweet spot of playoff experience, right in his prime. I think a little help from the defense, a little magic, and we're right there.
You know who doesn't have playoff experience? Matt LaFleur. He doesn't have football. He doesn't have playoff experience, but Sean Payton does, and Kyle Shanahan does, and obviously Pete Carroll does. So, is that going to play a factor down the stretch, Chris? Do you think that because the Packers are not don't have as experienced of a coach, is that going to hurt them?
No, that's not going to be the reason. When you have Aaron Rodgers, when you have a high profile quarterback, that's not going to be like he can will himself to a win in the playoffs. Like, it's not going to be a first time head coach that holds Aaron Rodgers wouldn't let a coach hold him back. Like all the top,
and he hasn't this year.
Exactly.
He really has been a nice compliment to Matt LaFleur this year. I think
they've worked well, but like the problem is, you already put you're going to have to beat probably the Niners. You scored 8 against them. Aaron Rodgers threw for 104 yards. I don't see that changing. Nothing about I'm so out on the Packers simply because you can watch that game and they don't belong on the same field. Like, there's nothing else to say. Aaron Rodgers threw for 104 yards. They're not going to beat the Niners. Like, there's nothing else to say.
Yeah, but I think that game was the turning point. The players held a meeting with Matt LaFleur after the game. They made some changes. I think you look at the year the Packers won the Super Bowl, they had a bad regular season loss against the Falcons. They couldn't stop them, and then in the playoffs they smoked the Falcons.
Since that meeting, the Packers have not lost.
1-0.
1-0.
Awesome.
So the thing is, though, is they haven't had enough time to really, I guess, prove people differently as to why. Like, you got one win against the 2-9 Giants. You want a cookie or take a cookie? And the thing is, they really aren't going to have another chance to prove themselves, unfortunately, until the playoffs. I think the Minnesota game is a nice litmus test game. But even if even if they lose that game, they might still be in the playoffs because Minnesota, you look at them, they lose to Seattle. They're 8-4 now, and their last 4 games are actually pretty much the same as the Packers here. But they have to go play the Chargers. So that game could actually decide the division. And if they were to not win that game, John, because actually what we're really looking at is the Vikings and the Packers could see themselves playing in the playoffs again, because what you're looking at is the NFC West is going to occupy the number 5 seed, is what it's looking like, and the NFC North is going to occupy the 3 and the 6 seeds. So this game could actually be for who gets home field advantage in that wild card game.
So are you suggesting that there's a chance Kirk Cousins beats the Aaron Rodgers-led Packers in the playoffs? Because that's not happening.
I didn't say that, but what I did say is this game in Minnesota could decide.
It could.
Because the thing is, at this point, you're looking at, honestly, I actually don't see a scenario where the Packers and the Vikings don't meet in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing for the Packers.
Exactly, that's a
exactly.
beatable team. They've beaten them once this year. It's probably, honestly, I want to say it's their best win on the schedule.
Also, are you aware of Kirk Cousins' Monday night record?
That's true.
Like, they're not.
Yeah.
He's
they're
also
not, they're not
0-8.
like-
We're going to see primetime Kirk.
Yeah,
and I'm
they're-
excited for that.
So, I mean, look, the first game, week 2, wasn't like it wasn't a blowout. They got the win, but
It wasn't as close as the scoreboard suggests, and also the offense has made major strides.
that's true.
since
That's
that
true.
game.
I mean, week 2 is almost kind of the argument's almost invalid at this point just because it was so long ago.
Yeah, that game against the Vikings was 21-0, and they just kind of scored in the fourth quarter.
So
it was kind of a blowout.
So the Vikings, they were up during Monday Night Football, then they were down by a lot. Then they tried to make a comeback, almost got it.
Yeah, and I think that sums up the roller coaster that is Kirk Cousins being your quarterback.
I think it's well said, yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins isn't going to beat any quality team. We've seen it way too many times. Any team in the playoffs would be dying to play the Vikings because as good as they look right now, it doesn't matter. Kirk Cousins isn't going to beat you. He's going to find ways to lose football games. And you can bring up the stats from this year, that's fine. It just doesn't matter. He's not going to beat you in the playoffs.
So, did Monday night kind of solidify what Kirk Cousins is this year?
I mean, I don't think it took Monday night. I think we've all known what he is. It's just another.
Monday night
but
was
let
the
me-
confirmation.
But let me ask you this. Let's say the Seahawks won Monday night. Would that change your opinion on Kirk Cousins?
You mean like if the Vikings won?
If the Vikings beat the Seahawks in Seattle, would that change your opinion on him? Because if you look at that, if they won, the Vikings would be 9-3, Seahawks would be 9-3, and they'd be tied with the Packers at the top of the division. So would that have changed your opinion? I'm just curious.
Slightly, I would say it would, but like I had so low expectations for them going into that game, and then they lost the game. Like if they would have won, yeah, I would have had to question it a little bit. That like this could be the year. Like is Kirk Cousins finally going to do it? But now that we saw it once, like already this year, to definitively say, okay, this is Kirk Cousins. Nothing else. Like I'm completely, like you know what you're getting. Yeah. You have known what you're getting, and nothing's changed.
All right, so I want to close this up. We've covered a lot, but I want to close this up with a kind of a look into this weekend. So I'm going to ask you. I got the games pulled up on the computer right here. What game? I want you to pick a game, the game that you're looking forward to the most, and then I want you to give a prediction as to how that game goes. John, I'll start with you. Pick a game.
Most looking forward to Saints versus 49ers. I think it's going to tell us a lot about this 49ers team.
And so who takes that? Saints or Niners?
Ooh, man, it's really a tough one to call.
It is.
I got to go with the Saints. It's at home. 49ers had that tough loss last week where they got beat up a little bit. And I think we're going to see the weapons on the Saints team take over. I think it's been a long time coming, and we're going to see Saints at their best.
You look at the tickets here because they got the tickets pulled up on the ESPN schedule. Tickets, and they put like the lowest price for all the tickets. The tickets for the Saints Niners game is you can get one for $200 in the nosebleeds. The other games, like, you can get a $13 ticket for the Browns Bengals game, but
And I wouldn't take it for free.
so you could have like 20 tickets for that game right there, and have it only spend a little bit more money than if you bought one ticket for the Niners and Saints game. Crazy world we live in. But Chris, can't pick Niners, Saints, but I'll give you second choice here. Pick a game that you're looking forward to the most and give me a prediction.
It's Kansas City at New England, and it's just I just have curiosity to see how New England's going to respond. Like, we've seen Bill Belichick year after year. He responds very well to losses. He doesn't lose back-to-backs often, although it did happen last year. It just doesn't happen often. Although I do think the Chiefs win the game. I don't think it's going to tell what's going to happen in the playoffs, but I do think the Chiefs win the game. I just want to see how the Patriots respond, because they could get blown out in this game. Like, if Patrick Mahomes puts up 40, Tom Brady is not going to go for 40 in this game. So I'm really curious to see how the teams match up.
Yeah,
it's almost for sure that they're going to meet up in the playoffs.
It's looking like it could be that way. I think a lot of it depends on who gets that 3, if it's Kansas City or Houston. Right now, Houston has the inside lane on it, but Kansas City could also very well be that number 3 as well. But you guys took my first 2 choices, but I think I got a really good third choice here. That's Baltimore and Buffalo. I think these 3 games right here, the Saints and the Niners, the Kansas City, New England, and then Baltimore, Buffalo. Those are the 3 games this weekend that I would keep my eyes on a little bit more than the others. But this is going to be a big game for Buffalo. Buffalo is going to be riding a huge wave of, high energy. It's going to be really cold. I mean, unless something drastic happens or they move the game to like Australia or something. But this is going to be a big moment for both of these teams. I think it will show, if the Bills win, it will show that the Bills need to be taken seriously, because it will be their best win by far, and it will show that they can compete with the best in the AFC, and that they are among the best in the AFC. But if Baltimore wins, I think it will show that Lamar Jackson can win these big games on the road, which he might have to do. I mean, that 1 seed, although they're in it now, there's no guarantee that they're going to be in it at the end of the season. The Ravens have, after this game, they get the Jets, Browns, and Steelers. The Steelers game is probably their most difficult game. But so this is like their real last tune-up before the playoffs. I think if they win this game, I think they have a first round bye locked in. But this could be the game that gets them the number 1 seed. And if they can get this game, then you're at home for the rest of the playoffs. And I think that will be important. Not necessarily because the Ravens need it, but because the Patriots, the Chiefs, won't have it. And I think that's why they need home field advantage. So I'm going to actually go with the Ravens on this one. I know I alluded a little bit earlier to the Bills, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills won this game, but I think that the Bills are going to see something that they haven't really seen before, and they're going to have to learn on the fly, and they're going to grow up. They're going to grow up on Sunday, and whether it's positive or negative really comes down to how the game goes. But that's all the time we have on this edition of the Hitting the Field podcast. Our end of semester marathon continues tomorrow with our college football talk. I'll have Kyle Partain and Chris Wolf join me in the booth tomorrow morning, so you can be sure to check that out as well. We got a lot to talk about on that end of the spectrum. John and Chris, I know you guys wanted to come in to y'all. I'm glad we were able to get it done. Last words before we sign off from either of y'all? One last brief.
It's been an awesome semester. It's been a great season with Hitting the Field. It's my first semester here, and it's really been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Chris?
Yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. This is my last semester here, but it's been a great time. Just coming in and just talking sports is something I would do, off air anyway, so it's just even more fun to do it here.
Absolutely. So be sure to follow them on Twitter. You can follow John at Jon Whitley 10. You can follow Chris at Chris Tran NSC, and you can follow me, Jeremy Brener. That's JeremyBrener. and we will, we can hear us tomorrow.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back, okay? Always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats.